Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3%. Welcome back, Construction Champions, to another episode. I am your facilitator, Ron Nussbaum. I'm the founder and CEO of Builder Comms, and I have the great privilege of facilitating these conversations, bringing on business experts in construction, thought leaders, disruptors, people that just think differently about how we should operate. And my goal from day one, as the intro just said, was to change the mindset around the construction industry, to stop letting the 3% of bad eggs dictate the entire reputation of our industry. And like I said, what we do is we bring on amazing guests, and today is no different. We have a rock star here with us. Ruth, it is fantastic to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to speak with your audience.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into it, why don't you introduce yourself to all the construction champions out there?
Sure. So I'm a dentist, and in the beginning, I started my practice from scratch. We were moving right along. We were busy 5 days a week. Our family, so far, we had 2 little boys. And when my daughter was born, she had a very traumatic birth. She was in intensive care for almost 6 weeks. And when she came home from the hospital, she had to see 8 different doctors every week. And it was like, oh my gosh, my husband and I both have significant careers. How are we going to make this work? So I went to my team, and it's very important to me at this point to say, I designed this new business model with my team. It's not like I had a brilliant idea and ran with it. This is because I encourage people, don't try to recreate the wheel all by yourself. Bring your team in, have them help you. And we took our 5 days a week and scrunched it down to 2.5 days. It took us a year to get back to the revenue that we had previously. And then we grew it from there. And we never went back. We never went back to 5 days a week. We were cooking. We came up with a model that worked, and we just kept going at 2.5 days a week. And I think many of your listeners don't need to turn their week in half. They don't need that much. But what if they could get 10 hours a week back? What would that do for their business, for their team members, and for their private life?
I love it. When me and my wife owned a cleaning company, we didn't do it that drastic, but we took it from 5 to 4 days, and we were able to do more revenue, more efficiency. The team was happier, and it allowed a business that ran 4 days a week instead of 5, and everything got better. But we did it with a lot of clarity on why we were doing it. And like you said, we worked team. It just wasn't us making that decision.
Right. And one thing I find, clients come to me and they say, Ruth, I need to learn time management. I just have to be better at what I do with my time. And I'm here to say, I don't believe in time management. Think about it. Time is this ethereal thing. We can't manage it. It's kind of audacious for us to even say that. What we really want to do is manage behavior, our team's behavior, and our customers, our clients' behavior. That's the ticket. That's what we discovered really made it all work for us in changing our business model. And what we came up with, there are 5 different areas in your business that need to be addressed if you really want to design a business that can run without you, that can be a little revenue generating machine or a big generating machine. But there are 5 areas that need to be addressed that will allow the owner to step back and decide, what do I really want to do with my time?
I love it. And we could probably spend an entire episode on time because I agree. Like,
Uh,
it is literally this made up thing that we have given a power to. Like, it didn't always have numbers attached to it.
Right.
Now there's numbers attached to it, and we make it like this is the
Sure.
all whatever, but
Mhm.
it's really not.
And as the owners or the founders, we immediately think, I'm not doing something right. That's why I'm working too many hours. Like, there's something wrong with what I'm doing. Um, and instead, I'd rather have owners focus on these 5 areas of their businesses. And then, because it allows the owner to keep doing what you love to do, pick the one thing in your business that you really love to do. It's why you get into your business in the first place. If we could allow you to just do that, or even if you just want to say, I want to step back, not be part of this business, and just have it generate revenue for me, you know? So if you'd like, I can go through those 5 areas.
You're reading my mind. I was just going to ask you, like, let's dive into these 5 areas, the
Sure.
secret sauce.
Yeah. So the first one, and I think the most important one, is you need robust operating systems. You need so the first one to start with, I would suggest, is what I call the client journey. From the first phone call, when someone calls to inquire about a building, all the way through um, estimating, design, procurement, the delivery of services, and on past to the end. All of that is one giant system. And if you can divide it up into little sections like that, and decide who's in charge, who's the champion for this box of the process, who's in charge of this one, how do I move information from step 1, from the phone call to an estimate, to a scheduler? How does this get to dispatch? How does all of that happen? Where does the information, where is it housed? How can everybody get a hold of that information? So designing systems, and I mean systems for everything. Your accounts receivable, make sure that system is just kick butt, because that has such a huge impact. And I imagine in your industry, it's a huge piece, because we're talking big dollars hanging out there. And you've already invested in materials and labor, so there are many, many systems that need to be set up, and then make sure that your entire team is actually using those systems.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. That's like the foundation of every
It
business
is.
has that in common. Like, there is no anomalies that systems and procedures does not apply to.
Mhm.
So yeah, that is definitely the foundation. I understand why you started with that.
Sure.
Is there a specific framework you recommend or anything? Or
People are business owners, are so different. I like to give them the freedom to design your own, but I encourage them to just pick one. So I worked with a painting company who had 2 estimators who had completely different ways of estimating. And so procurement had no idea what to purchase until they physically had a conversation with the estimator, because they were different processes. So the first thing they had to do was somehow get down to one process that everybody was happy with and actually using. And then they could, it's really not scalable if it's not a system that everyone agrees to use,
Mm,
you know?
absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
And the second area goes right with it. And the second area is your communication in the company. Um, each step along your process, your systems, as you design them, you need to build the communication for it right in with the steps to the system. And for all of you who really dislike meetings like I do, this better communication does not mean more meetings. it might mean better meetings, and it might mean different kinds of meetings, but not more. I'm never in wanting people to do more meetings. But for example, in the dental practice, every morning we had what we called a standing morning huddle. So the whole team got together, standing up because I wanted it over in like 5 or 6 minutes. But we stood around and we looked at the day's schedule. What's happening today? Do we have the lab work for everybody? Are there any clients, patients who need a little more TLC than the others? Are there holes in the schedule? What's happening today? Then we take a look at tomorrow. What's tomorrow look like? Do we have everything we need? Have the patients all been confirmed? Do we have, anybody who's behind on accounts receivable? Just spending 5 or 6 minutes every day going through what's going on. It's a huge, huge improvement in how our day was put together. Another thing is to encourage people to have team meetings, meaning a time when you get together with your team. Sometimes it's for education, sometimes it's for personal development or professional development, depends on your team. But somewhere in there, you need time set aside so that even the guys on the site have access to the leader in the company for direct communication somehow, Some days it's Zoom because that happens. But just so your team knows, they have access, they have input into what happens in a company and how they provide services for the company. Does that make sense?
Well, 100%, being that everything I do now evolves around communication, because that is the most unorganized thing that we do in construction. It's why I built builder comms and why I built systems around it, because it's what everything changes. And like you said, people think it means more meetings, but what it actually means is less meetings and more productive meetings when everybody's on the same page.
Yep. Sometimes, and all companies are a little bit different. Sometimes the company just needs to say, these are the modes of communication we're going to use. If you're going to talk to a client, it's going to be a phone call or an email. If you're going to talk to a teammate, it's going to be a chat, a text chat. I'm making things up. You can do however you want. But if you want to talk to the doc or to the owner, it's going to have to be on a WhatsApp because I don't want to listen to the team talking to each other. So sometimes just designating, this is how we talk to these different people, and everybody agree to not call me on the phone to ask a question. I think sometimes that's as important as having a sit-down meeting.
Well, I think if a business does that right there and puts clarity to how we are going to talk to each other, it literally will eliminate chaos in your business overnight. Just taking the time to say, this is how we are going to communicate. This is where we're going to communicate. And having everybody on the same page, it's a changer.
And I don't want owners to feel like, geez, I messed this up. Because think about it. A lot of us started our business from scratch. And in the beginning, we're just talking to ourselves, different parts of our brain, because you wear all the hats. And then you have to start talking to other people. And it kind of snowballs. So it's not like you made one bad decision about how to communicate. It just kind of sneaks up on you. And before you know it, you've got chaos where you should have communication. So it's no one made a big boo-boo. It's just, let's fix this. And the clarity that comes from having better communication is just awe-inspiring for people. So I think that's a huge one,
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something that happens that you have to fix. And it just it's just an oversight. And it's something we don't really put a lot of thought into, but it's really amazing how well that can be fixed.
And it goes back to that saying about what got you here won't get you there. The systems or the way you used to do something when you were on your own or just had one crew is not the same system that's going to scale to 4 or 5 crews with bigger projects, or however that goes in your company, but they don't work like that. You need something scalable in order to scale without chaos.
Absolutely.
You know? So then the next thing you need after you've got systems and communication is you need the right team members. You need really high performing team members. And I like to think of it as the Henry Ford outlook on business. So I don't know how much you know about Henry Ford, but he never graduated from high school. All he knew how to do was mechanics. That's the only thing he was brilliant at, just an expert at mechanical things. But he didn't know sales. He didn't know marketing. He didn't know HR. He didn't know any of that stuff. So he surrounded himself with experts. Then he never had to answer the questions about these other areas because he had people, and he would just say, ask them. So we're the same. As an owner, you don't have to be an expert at HR or at sales or at marketing, unless that's the one thing you love to do. But you need to surround yourself with people who are better at it than you are. Sometimes that's a scary thing. And sometimes owners say to me, I can't afford to hire experts in all those areas. So just to wrap your brain around this change in language is, instead of an expert, what if you brought on a champion who's just better at it than you are? For example, if you need someone in the marketing department to do your social media, you could probably hire a high school kid who would be way better at it than you are, or anybody else on your team. But so there's a champion. There's somebody who's better at it than you are, because that's how you're going to grow. That's in business development, not so much revenue size. That's not what I'm using, but growing as a mature business by surrounding yourself with people who on their own are better at what they do than you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's one of the things, like, if you don't humble yourself down to understand that there's people that are better at everything than you are,
Right.
and put them around you so you can be successful. And the thing is those people that you're not looking. I think one of the things we can do is we look at that expert or that champion as needing to be as, like, they're not as good as I am at this, but that's not what you're hiring them for. They just need to be great at what they do, and you need to be great at being able to relay the vision to them and letting them run with it, and they'll learn as much from you as you're going to learn from them. And that's how that environment should be. And I like to challenge people. I would say, go find an expert in what you love as well.
Oh, there you go.
Or, like, it will make you go to another level with what you love.
Yeah, very good. I like that. The other piece of having a great team is you have to hang on to the good people you've got. So I encourage people to make sure. The rest of the industry calls them performance reviews. I hate that word. I call them growth conferences, because part of your job as the leader in your company is to grow the people around you. And so I call them growth conferences. You're still talking about holding people accountable for what they agree to do, making sure that you periodically, on a regular basis, check in with people and talk about how they're doing. And I encourage people to say, so maybe you have a quarterly review with people, or twice a year. Some companies do it once a year. The team needs to know that once a year or twice a year, they're going to be able to sit down with somebody and talk about how they're doing, talk about their frustrations, and how can you as the owner help them get better at what they do. Sometimes, so I encourage people to, when you do those, to give your team kind of a scale. So you can, for example, if Mary's having a hard time showing up on time, you can rank her on a scale of 1 to 5. Like Mary, right now, you're at a 3. So what can we do to make sure you improve to a 4 or 5 by the next time we sit down for a growth conference? And come up with some actionable items to help her achieve that goal. Instead of saying, slap on the wrist, you're really bad because you don't show up on time, you know? So it's the scale lets your team members know how well am I doing? And it gives them something to aim at, and you have to explain. So this is what it means for you to be a 4 or a 5, means showing up all the time, means showing up early, means asking for help, whatever that is. But that's a great time to spell out all those pieces and then have both people sign. So now you have a breadcrumb trail. Should you ever have to let someone go, you have a file full of growth conferences to fall back on and say, well, we tried this and we tried this and nothing seems to be working. Do you see what I mean? So it helps in so many different ways. It helps your team grow. It helps you as an HR, as a being responsible for your team members. It just gives everybody common language to talk about. How can I get better? What am I doing well? What shouldn't I be doing because I really am bad at it? You know? So
Absolutely.
I think that growth conferences are a huge part of retaining your high-functioning team members.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that outside of construction is pretty standard. But when we start to get into the construction business, it's something that we can be a little lackluster at. That is for sure.
Well, because it takes you off the site. And anytime you pull somebody off the site, it seems like you're losing money. But that's a mindset. And it's worth building that time, that spent time, into your estimates somehow, so that you have the opportunity to invest time and energy into your team members, so that, one, they know you see them as a person and you appreciate that they can learn, that they can get better. And it shows them you're investing time and money in them, that makes them valuable in their eyes, because you, as the busy owner, have taken time to make sure you grow them. Because I think the last piece that we'll talk about is leadership. There's one in between there, but leadership is like sprinkled through all of these. And having a better relationship with your team and being able to retain them so that they're not just there for a paycheck, they're not just there because it's summer. It gives you a leg up over so much of the competition who is not thinking growth wise about their team.
I absolutely agree with that. That is hiring and retaining is all mindset, and you have to be willing to shift it to really be able to unlock the success with it.
Right. And another piece that will help you hang on to valuable team members is actually the fourth piece, which is a irresistible business culture. Like, you want to make the culture in your business so winsome that people I don't want to leave. I've walked into some companies. So I was at a manufacturing firm. Their corporate culture was so phenomenal. I'm like, I'm not even in manufacturing and I want to work here, because it was just such a great, they had things spelled out so beautifully, and they were working with their team members so that the team members knew exactly how to treat each other, how to treat their customers, and how to treat the business owner. Very clear, very spelled out. Something that started from, it's based on the owner's core values that they want displayed in their company. Core values kind of have a bad connotation. In business, owners think of it as, well, I came up with 5 big words, put them on a plaque, stuck them on the wall, and we don't do anything with it, which is very true. A lot of businesses do that. But what if we took those core values off the wall and we turned them into what I call core behaviors. So when you say, one of my core values is integrity, what does that look like in action? How is your team going to know if they're acting in integrity? How can you spell that out so there's like no question in their minds? So one of my clients had this great idea. So they sat down with they had seven core values. They sat down with their team and they did an exercise, and they said, what does integrity look like? What does excellence look like? And they spelled out 30 different behaviors that would show people their core values in action. And then to help their team sort of understand that and wear it, they had a contest for team members to catch each other role playing or doing those behaviors, living the core values in the day-to-day running of the business. It was fabulous. So they had prizes so it was you catching your team member doing any of the core values that were turned into behaviors. But somehow to focus your team members on the behaviors. Remember, we started this whole thing talking about behaviors. If a business owner is going to step back, you have to feel confident and secure that your team members are going to make good decisions while you're gone, that they're going to represent you and your company in the best way when you're not there. I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks that my clients talk about is, how can I trust that these people are going to run the business the way I want it run? And a big piece of that is defining your culture and teaching your team what that culture looks like and how to live it out every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It becomes an organ of itself.
Yeah.
It becomes I think what is so fearful for people of building a great culture is because when you build a great culture, what you're really doing is removing yourself from the identity of the business and giving the business its own identity that allows it to continue to thrive and grow. And that can be scary for owners that want to have control over everything.
I know. So, but designing, you've got the team, you've got the system, you've got the communication and the culture to all keep it in for those owners who, like, I don't want to give up my reputation. My company is built on my name, because so many construction companies that I've worked with, it's the last name of the owner, but think about it. If you go to sell your business and you truly are the face and the name of your construction company, how could someone buy that? How can they purchase that and hope to take it over, knowing you're not going to be there? And your clients, your customers know that you're not there anymore. So it's a good idea, thinking ahead for when you do want to sell your business, to not have it completely named after you, and to separate you as the face of the business, because you are a hard act to follow. You've got the passion, the zeal, the enthusiasm for doing things. And when you remove that, people are going to think, well, now all I have is team members and a system, But if you've built it into your culture and you can show them that your differentiation, what makes your construction company different than the one right next to you, is what's going to really make you shine when it comes time to sell your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's something that we can bank a lot on our personal reputation and stuff as we continue to start, but you always have to have a way to be able to transition away from that into a more organic word where the business isn't just the business just isn't Ron Nussbaum. Might have had to spell it out that way because at the beginning, everything, but the idea is to grow and for the business to grow out of that, not grow more into it.
Right. unless you are happy to just take your business and set it down when you're done, you're just going to have a hard time when it comes to selling it. Because think about it, buyers are smarter than we want them to be. And they're honest. They're going to look at like how much of your revenue is just based on the owner as the rainmaker or as the personality or the face of the company, you know? And if you take that out, they're going to have a hard time believing that your company is going to be able to generate more just based on being a bunch of guys working together.
Absolutely.
You know? So that's I think culture is a big piece of making an owner feel comfortable enough to step away and let their team run a company without them. The other thing, the last piece that I think is real important is leadership. Leadership is actually part of all 5 of the areas, but the part of leadership that people have the most trouble with sometimes is in the beginning, you're growing. The beginning of owning your company, you're growing. And then when you decide or it occurs to you that you have to lead a group of people, now you shift from growing yourself to growing other people. And depending on what each of us as owners have learned about leadership. So when I was learning about leadership in the beginning, to me, I learned in corporate that leadership is like from the top down. Like I'm the leader, I'm the boss because I know I am, where I am because of what I know. I know this works. This is how we're going to do it. And I'm a good leader because I'm going to tell you what to do. So that's not a great way to lead people. And I'll tell you right now, like all 4 of my kids are millennials. They have no interest in someone being top-down leadership and telling them what to do. So now the idea is to, instead of leading from in front of people, to lead from the middle of your team. And then eventually you're going to lead from behind your team. Once you've equipped them with everything they need, supported them with a culture, the systems, all the things that we talked about, then you can lead from the back because they can make it all happen. You're still there, but only to the extent that you decide you want to be. Whatever works in your environment, your culture. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And 100% makes sense. This is it. The leadership is what really drives that culture, and where you want that to go as a company. And that's something like you have to continue to evolve in. You have to continue to be growing as a leader so all aspects of your business can grow.
And I think the piece of that surprises owners or founders is that instead of being responsible for their own professional development and growth, now I'm responsible for my team's development and growth. That's a huge part of being a leader, is not so much telling people what to do, but ensuring, supporting them so that they grow both professionally and personally. And helping them grow can be so simple. So one of my clients who's owns a restoration company, he had a workshop for his teammates to teach them how to open a checking account and balance a checkbook. So simplest little thing in the world, but it made a huge difference because these people had never done that before, never even had a bank account or learned how to keep track of their money. That's a huge step in personal development, personal growth, that you wouldn't always think. You'd think it has to be something about construction or something about how to run the business, but not always. Simple little things can make a huge impact on your team members.
Yeah, it's amazing as you continue to grow and figure out what that looks like. I know over the last couple of years, I've met a lot of guys that they're really tracking their growth perspective by how many team members they have buy houses, because they feel like like a huge, it's to get a first time home buyer.
Right.
It's it's a way for them to start generating equity and net worth. And it's a huge accomplishment to how do we take somebody from not being that to that. And I know a couple guys, like, it's a driving force. It's what they're built, like their business is now, like, that is what they're chasing. It's not necessarily the business. It's how do we get our team into home ownership.
Right. That's wonderful. Yeah. Same idea. I love it. That's very good. So those are the areas that we worked on when we changed our business model and made it something completely team run. In fact, the rule was, if Dr. Ruth didn't need her handpiece in her hand or her dental license, she wasn't allowed to do it. So it worked, and it doesn't have to be that abrupt, but think about it. Think about how we're not starting over. We're not asking business owners to start over. You've got a version of a system. All you have to do is tweak it. Just tweak things. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Just look at what you've got, systems, communication, the whole package, and say, what can I tweak? And better yet, what can my team help me tweak? I went into this whole revision of my business model from sitting at the table and saying, I have no idea how to do this. Let's try this, and we're going to make it work. So I really encourage people to come in and be honest, be authentic with your team members and say, let's give this a try. I want to make it better for all of us, So I encourage owners to work with your team. Don't try to do it all yourself. You already have too many things to do.
Awesome. I love it. This has been an amazing conversation here today. Amazing. I mean, 5 amazing subjects. For everybody listening, if they wanted to connect with you, learn more about what you do, where's the best place for them to do that?
We put together a little freebie for your listeners. And if they go to workfewerhours.com, they can download a checklist that'll help them walk through the 5 areas that we talked about. Awesome. So I think that's the easiest way to get started.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for that. And Dr. Ruth, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Yep, this is great. I'm encouraged. I've looked at your list of episodes and listened to a few. I love the people that you have on. I think you have a great thing going here. And I encourage your listeners to listen more.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag where, when we go back to the beginning and we're talking about how Dr. Ruth went through such a drastic change in her business, but then easily just laid out 5 things that don't have to be drastic, that will lead to the same results. And it's nothing to be scared of. So many times we referenced, hey, it's just a mindset shift, which is what, I started that episode out. That's what we start out here all the time, is we're just talking about changing the mindset on how we do stuff. Just instead of saying this is how we've always done it, ask ourselves, why have we always done it this way? And is there a better way? Or maybe not. Maybe that is the best way because that's how we've always done it. But you need to open your mind up and start to, maybe go do the workbook. Understand some of this stuff for yourself instead of just generalizing it and thinking about it. And, there's 5 steps for a reason, because you do one at a time. You don't do all 5 at one time. So, all right, construction champions, until next time, be the champion you're meant to be.